Welcome back. The field of candidates in Florida's race for governor continues to grow on the Democratic side, despite being a political newcomer. Orlando businessman Chris King, well on his way to building a campaign infrastructure to take on his rivals. Now, I had a chance to sit down with a Democratic candidate for our Sunday one-on-one. All right, Chris, thanks so much for joining us this morning. You know, first, right off the top, I want to talk about running for governor. It's a big leap from being a businessman. Why jump in the deep end of the political pool, and why now?
It's great to be here. Why now? Because Florida's got big issues now. I feel very strongly that our leaders in Tallahassee are not addressing them with excitement and energy and innovation, and that's why I'm running.
What's one of those big issues you think right now that needs to be dealt with right now?
Sure. So the major issue of our campaign is the economy. Is an economy that is not working for so many millions of Floridians. Under 15 years of Republican rule in Tallahassee, Florida is now a back-of-the-pack state. We're running to do something about that.
And your economic plan, we'll talk about that. It's homegrown Florida, focused on growing the economy from within the state. But what I want to know is how this is going to affect working class families and small businesses, bottom line there.
Absolutely. So it's about increasing wages, incomes, productivity across this state. For far too long, our leaders have looked to out-of-state giant corporations to lure them here for low-paying jobs. We're about lifting up small businesses, making access to capital more accessible to small business, Hispanic entrepreneurs, urban entrepreneurs, small farmers, so that they can create the jobs that support families.
Okay, to some that sounds like a good plan, to some. But there are others out there who are saying, you know, honestly, who is this guy? Sure. Who is Chris King? Do you think you will have a problem as far as name recognizability?
Well, 2018 is a wide open race for Democrats and Republicans, and our party has not won this race since 1994. And I feel in my bones that this party is looking for fresh leaders with new ideas to take on our big challenges. And so we think my resume and our achievements out of the Central Florida area will get folks excited.
Okay, so the Democratic so far, we've talked with Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum. We've got former Congresswoman Gwen Graham. The real wild card in the whole race on your side is Attorney John Morgan.
Yes.
He's got some recognizability as well. Not a career politician either. So who do you think could, maybe would, be your biggest challenger?
Sure. John is a friend. John is an attorney in Central Florida. He's somebody we hope will join our campaign and be supportive of this. But at this point, I'm focused most on getting our message out, a message of building an economy that works for all families, of making housing more affordable across the state, and health care, which to me is one of the biggest issues in Florida.
So let's talk about health care.
Sure.
The battle over health care in Washington, the current bill to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act that gives states a way to opt out of pre-existing, the sticking point, pre-existing coverage. Opting out, the state could opt out. What would you do if you were governor?
Oh, I would not opt out. The concept that pre-existing conditions, folks with pre-existing conditions could not have access to health care is unconscionable to me. This is the epicenter, Florida, of the health care debate. We need a governor who is fighting to make sure more folks have access. We have 2.6 million Floridians without access to health care, to a doctor who knows their name, and nobody in Tallahassee with power is standing up and speaking for those people.
One last topic before we let you go. Let's talk about the amendment to the Constitution regarding marijuana. The people have spoken. This seems to have been going on for so long right now. If governor, what would you do? Because lawmakers are just sitting there and have come together and done essentially nothing.
This is one more example of why one-party state government doesn't work and is broken. We pass amendment after amendment. Amendment 2, which you refer to, is the latest example, but folks remember fair districts. They remember Amendment 1, the Forever Florida. And in each case, voters pass overwhelmingly big ideas to improve Florida, and our leaders in Tallahassee do nothing to implement them. That's a big problem.
Thanks for coming in this morning. We appreciate that. All right, that was yesterday, Chris King. We want to bring back our political panel now. And guys, let's start on the Democratic side. So we have former Congresswoman Gwen Graham, well known. We also have Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, not so well known. So how does Chris King even size up against these two?
I don't think very well. I think it's going to be a race between the What's interesting is the establishment, which will eventually go with Gwen, but the Tallahassee establishment, like Allison Tant and Scott Arsenault, are both working for or supporting Andrew Gillum. So he's trying to run as the outsider with the former chair and executive director of the Democratic Party. But he's the Bernie Sanders candidate, and that's just too far to the left in Florida. Gwen Graham is the Florida Center, and she's going to be the nominee, just as Charlotte Crist beat Nan Rich. She's going to beat the more progressive liberals. That's why Phil Levine is floating a rumor to try to run as an independent.
And that's the thing. He's testing the waters on. I talked with him yesterday. But the thing is, you know, with King, Chris King, who actually knows Chris King? Anywhere in Florida you go, except for maybe the Orlando area, Susan, would people know who this is?
Well, no, he's definitely trying to get his name out there, and he's starting from behind in that position. And I've spoken to him about that. He realizes he's got a big, heavy lift to do, but you know, there are political insiders who are currently holding office right now, and so he feels like he has his shot to try it.
And one thing I want to put on the other side is in March of the year that Governor Scott was elected, he had 3% name ID within the Republican primary. Bill McCollum had 85% name ID. Scott put together a formidable team and won. King's team is not as formidable as Scott's, nor does he seem to have as much money.
Let's talk about, we've talked about Democrats. Let's go ahead and talk about the Republican side. The only candidate that has thrown his hat in the ring right now is our agricultural commissioner, Andrew Putnam. What has he been in politics since he was 21 or 22 years old? 22 years old. He's been there the whole time. He's the only candidate who's worked on the Hill. Do you think anyone else, it might be too early to say, but do you think anyone else is going to come up in there and say, yes, I'm going to challenge you to this?
I think we saw Appropriations Chairman Jack Latvala from Clearwater, the state senator, in Miami last week with the governor, and then he was in Pensacola on Thursday. And so he wouldn't be schlepping around Florida at 60 whatever years old he is if he wasn't running for governor. So I think he's in, and I think that Richard Corcoran, and he's going to run as the maverick outsider candidate. I mean, he voted with the Democrats on like the homestead exemption bill. He voted on some other issues. And you see Richard Corcoran as the Tea Party candidate, the Ted Cruz type, get in as the reformer.
Susan, Latvala, Corcoran, you think they're going to run?
I do agree that both of them are going to run. I saw Senator Latvala at a forum last week when the question came up.
Tiger Bay.
It was Tiger Bay. When it came up, he didn't deny it. He talked about the timing of when he would make his announcement. I don't know why he would go in that direction if he wasn't seriously considering or planning on it. And I'll also add there's no great love lost between Senator Latvala and Speaker Corcoran.
And why do you say that?
There was a question at Tiger Bay asking the panelists, including Senator Latvala, to comment or give one word on Speaker Corcoran. Senator Latvala refused to do so.
And there's a fourth candidate, Ron DeSantis, the congressman from the Daytona Beach area of the state, who's also kind of a traditional conservative thinking about getting in. And he's a very good speaker. So I think that there's a opportunity for a four-way primary there.
All right, so let's talk one more thing. Wild card. John Morgan in the race. I got 30 seconds left. Susan, take it.
I don't think at the end of the day Morgan is going to enter the race. I think he's enjoying the attention, but I don't think he's going to run.
What do you think, Barry?
I don't think he runs because his most important thing to him is his firm and the tape of him in Polk County where he appeared intoxicated. He's very...
But you don't think people would vote for him because his name is so well known throughout the entire state?
No, that's why you have campaigns. Rick Scott beat Bill McCollum, who had 85% nominee with 3% 6 months before the primary. Morgan does not want to damage his firm's brand, which is him.
Got to wrap it up right there, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today.